I just want to welcome everybody to My Love for You Will Live On, celebrating 30 years of Indigo, this conversation with Beverly Jenkins. We are super excited to be here, and we wouldn't be here today without the director of the Gullah Geechee Cultural Heritage Center, Dr. Joyce White, who is generously co-sponsoring this event, and as well as with the support of our department chair in the Department of English, Beth Howells, who is unable to be here tonight. So we are super excited for y'all to join us to celebrate 30 years of Indigo with Beverly Jenkins. And before we officially introduce her, we sort of want to tell you why we asked her here. And so, Dr. White, will you tell us your Beverly Jenkins story?
Sure, and I'm going to keep this, to my 2 minutes that I was allotted by Dr. Parker. Um, just to say, I'm so thrilled to have Beverly Jenkins with us, and so I wanted to just kind of introduce why Beverly Jenkins needs to be here with us tonight, not just because she's a fabulous person and a fabulous author, but I wanted to talk personally about what her work has meant to me. When I was completing my dissertation, my sister, I would often go to her house on the weekends and just to relax and to get some restoration and get my sisterly love. And, she would make me feel good about myself for a little bit. And so one afternoon, Saturday afternoon, I was on her couch, which wasn't uncommon. She had the best couch in the world. And she handed me a book. She was like, "You need to get your mind off your own writing, read somebody else's." And she handed me Indigo by Beverly Jenkins. And so I began to read it. And I wouldn't actually finish it during my dissertation. I got, called in 1,000 different areas. But there was this person in my department, Dr. Kendra Parker, who started teaching a class, which she'll talk about on Black love. And she said, "Oh, we're going to read Indigo." And I said, "Oh, I'm reading it with you. I'm going to take the class and I'm going to read it with you. I've been meaning to get back to this book." And so when I did, it was during a time when the world was a little bit topsy-turvy and seemed to need a lot of love. And so when I started reading Indigo, one thing that it did for me was to actually change the trajectory of my entire reading list for the year. I said, I'm going to read Black romance for the rest of the year. And I did. And I read mostly, to begin with, Beverly Jenkins. And when I tell you that I read through all of her series, except I haven't gotten all the way through the Blessing series. That's the only series I haven't gotten through. And 98% of her standalone novels, I only have two left. So when I say I dedicated my time, I was reading, Dr. Parker was probably sick of me because we're just talking back and forth. And I was like, "Guess what I read today?" I just finished. And she would, hit me back. "Guess what I read today?" Guess what I finished. So I did that within a year and I'm still going. And one of the things that was so important to me was, yes, it was Black love, and I love Black love, but it also showed the history of it and the revolutionary nature of Black love. And for me, that was just so important, and such a beautiful thing to immerse myself in, at a time, where the world seemed to just be bitter and polarized.
Yeah, yeah. Listen, I'm never tired of talking about your work. And so she'll be texting, I'll be texting, and then I'll be like, "Wait, which book is that?" And so if you don't do anything else by the time you leave here today, we hope that you pick up one of Beverly Jenkins's novels. And it's so funny because 20 years ago, next month, is the first time I read Indigo. It was 10
Wow.
years after it was published. And it's actually when I realized that I wanted to go to graduate school. Like Indigo is the book that made me realize that that's what I wanted to do. I was a rising junior in college. I was already an English major. I was taking every African American literature course I could. I just didn't know what I wanted to do after graduation. You had all these options, military, get a job or, get a master's degree or do something. But after my aunt Amanda introduced me to Beverly Jenkins, and she also introduced me to Brenda Jackson and Elin Harris, I knew that I wanted to do what Indigo did, which is compel people with information through storytelling, through meticulous research. I wasn't going to be a creative
Wow.
writer. That's not my ministry. But I was like, I can introduce people to stories like this and help them see why they are important, even if they are considered non-traditional. Right? Sometimes we think that romance isn't scholarly enough and shouldn't have a place in the college classroom. And that's what I wanted to do. And so, like Dr. White said, the past few years have just been a lot. And some of my students, they say, "Man, we love your courses on Black vampires. We love your courses on Black horror." But sometimes it can be a little heavy. And I said, and I feel that too. So every spring, I decided I'll be teaching Black Love. So I'm in my second iteration. When I
Awesome.
decided, I knew Indigo was going to be the book that I taught. And since then, students love it. I am teaching a Black woman writers course. I teach
Mhm.
Captured, which came out in 2009. And in the fall, I'm teaching Intro to AFM Lit, and we're teaching Winds of the Storm. Or I'm teaching Winds of the Storm. And for all of those reasons, right? They're well researched, they're well written, but also just at a most basic level, these are really damn good love stories. And
Yeah.
and in these times we need that now more than ever. And so as I transition to getting ready to introduce our speaker for the hour, when I say I'm grateful to you, Miss Jenkins, for coming to she asked to come to my class. And I thought she was lying. And then like 3 weeks later, she said, "Hey, when can I come to your class?" And I sent my students an email and I was like, this is not a drill. She wants to come. Give me y'all's days. She done asked me twice. Y'all ain't finna have her cuss me out. And so I'm so glad that you accepted the invitation to come speak to us for a public audience and not just my class. And so, for those of you who don't know who Beverly Jenkins is, she's the author of 60 books from YA, historical romance, contemporary romantic suspense, her Blessing series. She's got novellas and she's got short stories. She got her start as a librarian and she made the transition from there. And at the heart of every single one of her books is meticulous research, so much so that you can find a bibliography at the end of every single one. She's the recipient of the Romance Writers of America Nora Roberts Lifetime Achievement Award, a Romantic Times Reviewer's Choice Award for Historical Romance, and she's been an NAACP Image Award nominee for literature. So please help us give a warm virtual welcome to Miss Beverly Jenkins.
Thank you all so much. I'm honored to be here. Thanks for all the hearts and the clap hands and the applause and all that. So let's get started. September 7th, 1831. Dearest Catherine, I hope my letter finds you well. I am aware it has been over a year since my last correspondence. The circumstances have prevented me from writing before now. Dearest sister, all my life, you've cautioned me against making rash decisions. Had I taken your wise counsel to heart, maybe I would not be paying so dearly for that flaw now, but the die is cast. For the love of a woman named Frances Greeton, I have forsaken all that I am and given my freedom over to her master. I am a slave now, Catherine. My worth is no longer measured by how well I can steer a ship, or the languages I've mastered, or the lands I own, but rather by my strength, my weight, and the health of my teeth. According to Master Greeton, I'm very valuable, much like a prized steer. To her credit, Frances was furious upon learning what I had done and refused to speak to me for days. But Catherine, to be near her, I would carry water in hell. This is a hard life, especially for those in the fields. Master Greeton has, for the present, put me to work in his clerk's office, where I help with ledgers and accounts. I realize now, after much raging from Frances, that I could have arranged to be with her in a less dramatic fashion. But at the time, the captain of my ship refused to delay leaving port until a more rational solution could be found. So I chose love over freedom, possibly the last free choice I will ever make in this life. Frances will give birth to our first child around the new year. Master Greeton has agreed to keep our family together in exchange for my lifelong servitude. But Francis doubts the pledge will be honored by his heirs should Master Greeton pass on, especially if our child is male. So she and I have made a pact to somehow send our child north to you. No child should be made to suffer the repercussions of my decision. Slavery is truly an abomination against God. I'm risking much in posting this letter to you, as it is against the law. But I cannot let you think I have died at sea. Pray for me, your loving brother, David Wyatt. December 12th, 1833. My dearest Catherine, my worst fears have come true. The old Master Greeton died in a carriage accident, and as Francis predicted, Greeton the younger did not honor his father's pledge. My Francis has been sold deep south. The anguish and rage I feel over our forced parting pales in the face of the horror of watching the child of our love sold also. Her name is Hester. Greeton's ledgers say she has been sold to the Sea Islands in the Carolinas to a man named Weston. Find her, Catherine. Move heaven and earth, but find her. If you must, offer the owner everything I possess in both land and monies to secure her freedom. Alas, it is too late for me. I've contracted a wasting disease that will not let me see the new year. My Frances is gone from me forever, and I grieve for her every day. However, I will go to my grave less haunted if I know Hester is safe in your loving care. To help you in identifying Hester, Frances severed the tip of the little finger of her left hand the day she was born in anticipation of this tragedy. Both Hester and Frances cried for days after the severing, but the cut healed clean. I hereby relinquish all my accumulated Michigan properties, possessions, and monies to you in Hester's name. Goodbye, dear sister. My love for you will live on in my own sweet daughter, your brother, David Wyatt. Those are the Indigo letters, and they opened the book. And every time I read them, wherever I went, folks were sobbing. I was crying, they was crying. I told my mother, I said I was at Princeton one time, and everybody in the room was crying. Wastebaskets was crying. Everybody's crying. But they're very, very moving letters, and we'll talk about those in a minute. But before we get into this really deep, I'd like to thank Dr. Kendra Parker, Dr. Joyce White, the Gullah Geechee Cultural Heritage Center, Georgia Southern University, and Southern's Department of English for sponsoring this virtual visit. I'm honored to be asked to speak. So, my name is Beverly Jenkins. I'm from the east side of Detroit, and I made my name writing historical romance told through an African-American gaze. The roots of Black historical romance can be traced back to abolitionist Frances Ellen Watkins Harper, well known for being the first Black woman writer to be published by William Lloyd Garrison, known for her activism on behalf of the enslaved and women's rights, and of course for her iconic poem, Bury Me in a Free Land, which was to the abolitionist movement what We Shall Overcome was to the civil rights movement 100 years later. But what most people don't know is that Miss Watkins Harper also penned the first Black romance, titled Iola Leroy, or Shadows Uplifted, in 1892, and she was 67 years old at the time. The plot is a mess, centered around a woman who was raised as white, only to find out that she's really Black, and is filled with all kinds of drama, but closes with Iola working on behalf of the race with a Black doctor she falls in love with, and there's the romance genre-required HEA at the end. So I'm standing on the shoulders of Miss Watkins Harper, not only as a Black woman writer, but as a Black romance writer as well. And if you're interested in the full history of Black romance from Iola to now, please pick up this book. I know you're probably looking at it backwards. Black Love Matters, edited by Jessica Pryde. Jessica's a librarian I think she's in Denver. I haven't met her. She's a wonderful painter. Okay, now back to Indigo. In 1992, I saw the movie Daughters of the Dust by the groundbreaking Black woman director, Julie Dash. The story was set in the Gullah Geechee community of South Carolina in the years following freedom, and I was fascinated by the indigo-stained hands of the family's matriarch. Something else that influenced what would become Indigo was a few short sentences in this book. This is bullwhip days. During the Great Depression, the U.S. government provided work for over 8 million unemployed people through a program called the WPA, the Works Progress Administration. In addition to offering jobs that benefited America's infrastructure, like buildings and bridges and the national park system, people were also hired in what was called the Historical Records Survey. Its workers were sent to the South to interview and preserve the stories of the formerly enslaved. And that's what Bullwhip Days is. And on page 455, I came across this. I knowed a man named Wyatt who was free. He wanted to marry a slave girl named Carrie, and he gave himself to Carrie's master to marry her. He was crazy to do that. That love is an awful thing. I tell you, I don't think I would give my freedom away to marry anybody. Anonymous. So when I saw that, and I was looking for something entirely different, I wasn't looking for that. But when I read that, that stopped my heart. You're going to sell yourself into slavery for love? That's serious. You know, and I asked my husband, I said, so would you sell yourself into love for me? And he was like, babe, I don't know. And I said the same thing. I don't know, babe, if I would. But it was just such an amazing thing. And so that sort of was the impetus of Indigo. Now, there is no HEA in slavery. I mean, she could have been sold, Frances could have been sold the next day. Oh, HEA is happily ever after, for those who don't know what an HEA is. It's a standard requirement for genre romance. But there's no HEA in slavery, so I couldn't write about that. But I said to myself, what if they had a daughter and some kind of way that daughter was able to escape to Michigan, where he was from, where my mythical David Wyatt was from? And what kind of life would she have? And then came the idea of how would you find her? So, which, when we cropped the finger, because I thought about the ear. I mean, it would have to be something physical that you could see to say, okay, this is the child I'm looking for. So use the finger and then the hands. And I sent John Brown to get her because he was a crazy man. Oh my God. If you know the history of John Brown, you know, killing people with axes and stuff, him and his sons, it was on the wild. And then you had Harper's Ferry, right? Now, how are you gonna, that was just so dumb. I mean, and I understand why Frederick Douglass and everybody else was like, nah, we're gonna wait. Because how are you gonna start a slave insurrection if you don't tell the slaves you're coming? He didn't alert anybody. And as a result, one of the men who died with on that crazy, misguided assignment was Dangerfield Newby. And I got a letter from Dangerfield Newby's people after Indigo was published. And they wanted to thank me for keeping their ancestors' name alive. Because if you think about it, he gave away his life for absolutely nothing. So Indigo has been quite a journey. I mean, everywhere I went, this book came out in 96. Probably a lot of y'all out there weren't even born. 96. And everywhere I went, as I toured, Black women wept. Especially what I call the darker roses of the race, because nobody had ever put them in a romance before. And I didn't write it, oh, I'm going to write this for dark-skinned Black women. I write for everybody of all different colors. And indigo just happened to be dark skin. And like I said, everywhere I went, women in line were weeping. And, and I was going through perimenopause at the time. So, you drop a quarter and I was crying. So, but they filled my heart with their emotions. So now the letters, okay, I'm a pantser. There are a couple different kinds of writers. There are plotters. My girlfriend Betty Ford is a plotter. They know exactly everything that's going to happen in a story from the first vowel or consonant of the first word to the D in the end. They know everything that's going to happen. I can't write like that. If I have to sit down and put everything on paper like that, it takes away the energy for me from the story, and I'm ready to go on to the next story. So I am what they call a pantser. We write by the seat of our pants. We don't know what the heck we're doing. We may have just a kernel of a story, or we may have just a kernel of a character, and the story comes out of us organically. I always believe that the story's already written, and it's just, am I intuitive enough to know where it is and what to do with it? I saw a Native American totem carver years and years and years ago, and he said, the picture and the meanings and all of that is already in the wood. You just need to know what to take out. So that's how I deal with my stories. It's already on the page, but can I figure it out? So I'm writing Indigo, and about a third of the way through, it's like the brother tapped me on the shoulder and said, I need you to write these letters. It was the eeriest experience I have ever had. And he was like, he wanted his people to know what had happened to him. I did it in one take. There were no typos, no editing. I was in tears. I was soaking wet when I got done. So I figured probably these should go in the book. And it was a good way to start the story. So that's what I did. But it's still in print. It's been through a lot of different, editions and all of that. And then Adriana Herrera, she's a Dominican American romance writer, and Allie Hazelwood have put together a classics offering of romance classics. And Indigo is going to be a part of that. So it's going to be, the fancy pages and the gold displays and the artwork and all of that. And it will be out, I think, later this year or early next year. I'm not sure, but I'll keep you posted. So that's Indigo. I'm sure you guys have got, some questions, and I'll get to those in a minute. But first, I want to tackle Captured first, and then we'll talk about that. I don't have a lot to say about Captured because I hadn't, you read emails, you don't read the whole thing. I'm like, oh, she want me to talk about Captured too. So I wanted to do Black pirates. I knew that history had them. And if you look at the author's notes in the back of Captured, there's a article that's referenced from the National Geographic. And I cannot think of the guy's name right now because I could not find my copy of Captured at the house. My house is a mess. But the Widow, the name of his ship was the Widow. And 30% of his men on the ship were freed slaves or escaped slaves, Black people. So I wanted to do a tribute to those people. Also, Vanessa Riley, who's a great African-American writer, has a story out now called Fires sword and fire, sword, and sea. And it's about Black female pirates. So if you're looking for another person, and she writes also Regency, which is in the Bridgerton world, and she's got an amazing website. Um, but she's a great writer, so you can pick up some of her stuff. She's got Caribbean stuff, and with Black romance, we do everything. We do a lot of different stuff. All right, so that's all I have prepared. And I know that you out there have got questions and comments and maybe criticism. That's okay too. Um, so have at me.
Well, first, thank you so much. Listen, I'm up here taking notes. I will send all these book recommendations. I'll put them in the chat, send them to the registration list because, ooh,
I'm going to send you a link. I should have done this last night to the Julie Dash interview that I
okay,
found online last night that says a lot about her putting her story together and what she
perfect.
faced. Okay. All right.
Absolutely. So I wanted to, you all are welcome to ask questions. You can either put them in the chat or raise your hand and turn your camera on so we can see you. But I wanted to offer Dr. White the opportunity to ask the first question if you are so inclined to give everybody a chance to get their thoughts together.
Goodness, I have so many, like so many things that came
Well, if
up.
nobody else has a question, we can ask them all. We don't know if
I
they're shy
mean,
in here tonight.
That's up to y'all.
yeah.
I'm here. I'm here for y'all.
I'm not sure I know. One of the things that you were alluding to, Mrs. Jenkins and Kendra kind of talked about in her introduction is, and one of the things that I just found so fascinating, really, about your books is the amount of research that you put into them. Can you talk a little bit about, I guess it's a little bit of a question. Can you talk a little bit about what your research process is
Okay.
for, you could just talk about indigo if you just want to talk about that, or just in general, what your research
Okay.
process is, how long it might take you, what's involved in
Okay.
what you do.
Um, I want to start by saying my mama was Black before it was fashionable. She was born in 1929, right? We lost her in 2020. And so I grew up with a lot of Black history in my home because she was very proud to be Black, female, and from Detroit. She's like, I don't know nothing about the South. I'm an East Side girl from, okay. So whenever there was anybody Black on TV, we was watching them, whether it was entertainment or whether it was something on PBS or whatever. And when I went to school at Michigan State University, Spartans, and I worked in the library. But wasn't nobody going to class in the 70s. We was all doing something else. Nobody was going to class. And I especially was not going to class. I never did finish school. But anyway, they offered me a job at the library. And so I was a head clerk of the graduate library. I left school in my junior year. I didn't even take finals. When they offered me this job, I was like, screw school. I had maybe 45 students working under me. We were the kids that, my kids were the ones that reshelved all the books and, you know, did I brought this book back. No, you didn't, that kind of thing. But Michigan State had a full series of the Journal of Negro History. A lot of universities, especially, predominantly white universities, did not have that. So there's a river that runs through campus. And I would take armfuls of the Journal of Negro History out to the river when I did my lunch. Just, I am my mama's child, looking through, no real purpose other than to continue to feed that history that she was so proud of and that I was so proud of. Little did I know that 20 years later, I would be using those same references for the books that I was writing. And so most of the stuff that I started referencing were books by Dr. Benjamin Quarles, Dorothy Sterling, We Are Your Sisters, Black Women of the 19th Century was my Bible when I first started. Diary stuff, Art T. Burton was my is my expert on the Black West. Um, and so all of those people, I mean, we have so much history that I didn't have to make none of this up. I just had to find it and keep my focus narrowed and remember that I was writing a romance and not a history book. Um, and the rest they say is history. But I love what I do. I love writing romance. Whether it's young adult, because I have two young adult stories that are still in print, very, very age appropriate, because mama don't play that. No heat in these books. Um, so yeah, I'm just a little colored girl from the east side of Detroit. So yeah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. We love the history, and there's so much of it and so much that I didn't know.
Yeah.
That
And
I
I'm learning
found.
too.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm learning along with it too. And like when I did Ryan's book,
Hmm.
Forbidden. Okay, Ryan first shows up in Through the Storm.
Right.
He's Sable's brother. And he decided, I'm done. I am no longer three-fifths of a man. I'm jumping over and I'm going to be a white guy. Break Sable's heart. My readers, well, where'd he go? I don't know. Like I said, I'm a pantser. I have no idea where Ryan is. So I started calling them my Ryan whiners because every time I went someplace, they were asking me where Ryan was. So, okay, so I'm looking through, I'm online all the time, too much. And I run across an archaeological dig in Nevada, Silver City. And they find a saloon that's owned by a black man. It had the best liquor, it had the best um, uh, air conditioning systems because they found a hot sauce bottle. That's one of the first things they saw. And stereotypes or not, if it's a hot sauce bottle, it's us, right? So his name was David. You have to look in the back of the book. Too many names, not enough bandwidth here. But when I saw that information, I was like, we're going to give this place to Ryan. So that went with another piece of history about a guy in a diary in a Western book, black guy, who saw this black woman walking across the desert with a cook stove on her head. He didn't know where she was going. He said she was striding. I wanted to know where she was going too. So since I didn't know, I made up a story for her, and she turned into Edie for Forbidden. So, great. It's I got a really active imagination, I think, but the history is there to it's so many nuggets. You can just pick it up off the ground. There's so much out there. So, okay, I'm gonna shut up now. Next question, comment.
And feel free, you all can unmute if you would like. You can raise your virtual hand and I can acknowledge you. You can turn your camera on.
Right.
Don't be shy because look, Dr. White says she got a bunch of questions
Always. And y'all can put it in the chat as well.
in the chat. So we've got comments saying people are just starstruck.
Don't be starstruck. I'm just me.
I have
What she said?
more.
There's a black girl from the east side of Detroit.
I'm just a black girl from the east side of Detroit. We weren't even black back then. We was colored. So
And if I'm not mistaken, Destiny, did I see you unmute?
Yes, I have like a question statement kind of, but I feel like you kind of answered it in a sense because personally for me, like I started reading your books in 2020 and I'm 20, I was 20 at the time. And
mhm.
so I felt like I was on a journey to try to like personalize my ancestors and I felt like you helped me very much so, and specifically my African American ancestors. I feel like you helped me do that so much. And then
Well,
honestly,
good.
yes, you started talking about like where we live in the Sea Islands, and I thought that was so wild and different books. I felt like you always. I have family from Texas. I have family from all over, so I feel like you always jumped around and always helped my ancestors kind of be seen. So I have
Mhm.
appreciation for that, and I want to also ask, like, was that ever your intention, like like for yourself?
To find my ancestors or
Yeah. or to
Yeah,
like,
well,
sorry.
go ahead. What'd you say?
I said to like personalize them, like, to make them feel not
Well,
so.
I have a girlfriend who I call the bunch of girlfriends I call the ancestor divas, and they do the genealogy stuff. And Angela is one of the people that helped the Black Seminoles in their case against the tribe. And so she did my family tree for me. And we were able to trace them back, like most Black folks, who to the first census in 1868, I think. Um, his name was Aaron Coklow, Coklow. His wife's name was Clarissa, and neither one of them could read. So here I am, 3 generations later, getting an award for writing when my people, our people, couldn't read. Now, my great grandfather, which would be my mama's grandfather, was Muslim, Black Muslim, not Farrakhan Black Muslim. He was just a Black man who had turned his back on Christianity, right? He'd gone to Mecca, he'd been to Medina, did his Hajj, and lived overseas, lived in Pakistan and Nepal and all this, right? So he would send my mother his letters. And Mama said, okay, I got Papa's letters. We called him Papa. You take Papa's letters, and I'm figuring I'm going to get all this information, right? These great stamps on these envelopes. I opened up his letters, and all he said was, send me my pension check. I was like, because he worked for the railroad, and he worked for Ford Motor Company. He overseas, he like, send me my pension check. But I remember meeting him one time. I was probably 5. And he had this big old beard. He's a big old man. So 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 it's personalizing my history along with the history. I figure I'm connected to every Black woman in this country through these books, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
and the love is just amazing.
I feel it. I also wanted to ask about the Ketchum. You said the Ketchum last name, and I'm like, hold on, I got some Ketchums in my family, but I don't know. I have like not. Like, how did you come up with the Ketchum last name in your book?
I'm using I well it's easy for me. I'm a big sports fan. So
Oh,
I take the names off the back of the jerseys.
okay,
Okay, some of the names are historical. Some of them are
okay,
just, I cross names with old first names and
okay,
last names and all of that. So maybe not a
okay,
historical name just on the back of somebody's jersey.
okay.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you thank you for weighing in, my dear.
Thank you.
All right. You take care.
Hipley Tony, you have a question.
Yes. Hi, Miss Jenkins. I
Hello
am
there.
Kibble,
Hello.
aka Nikki Kendra's sister.
Okay.
You speak about the history. What's a piece of Black history you discovered during your research that completely changed how you see the present?
Reconstruction and redemption, because that's what we're going through right now. That's exactly what we're going through right now. After the gutting of of Reconstruction in 1876, you had the rise of the Black codes, you had the rise of Jim Crow, you had Black people leaving the South and going west. This is before the Great Migration of 1900. And it was all in reaction to the freedom. That's just like right now, these people lost their mind. They put a Black man in the White House and they done lost their damn mind. So I see this as Reconstruction, the gutting of America, really, and redemption, because that's what we're in right now. And it was funny because in I think it's Rebel, I talk about the Black women running the slave catchers out of their communities. And we do that a lot in a lot of the books, but specifically the whistles that they used. Romance has been very, very focused on the elections for the last 3 cycles. And we have, as a group, funded over 1 million whistles for people protesting ICE. So somebody said, well, Miss Bev, where did these whistles come from? I said, Black women. We wrote the book on resistance. So I see all of this as just a replay of what we did 100 years ago. America ain't learned its lesson. It never does. And we're doomed to repeat and repeat and repeat because people ain't got no sense, you know? So I hope that answered your question.
It did. Thank you.
You're very welcome. It's a great question.
Let's see. Up next was Dr. Conkle.
Hi there.
Uh, Hi. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your work with us.
You're welcome.
Um, I just wanted, I guess, to ask you to talk a little bit more about genre
Uh-huh.
specifically, and how you work with that. If you think kind of consciously, I know you said you're a pantser, but if you think kind of consciously about some of the genre conventions, or do you try to resist some of those? How do you work,
Well,
within
I
the
mean,
constraints of the genre?
I think whatever we're writing has tropes. Whether you're writing science fiction, you got tropes. Whether you're writing westerns, you got tropes. Whether you got romance, you got tropes. And there are some tropes that I love. I love marriage of convenience. I don't like secret babies. And I was online one day talking about how much I hated secret babies, and somebody said, "Well, Miss Bev, you wrote a book about secret babies." I was like, "No, I didn't." And they were like, "Yes, you did. Destiny Surrender." I was like, "I guess it was a secret baby," but I fixed it by saying, "Well, she didn't know who the daddy was, so that's not a secret baby." But people have a tendency to think that those of us who write mass market, that our stories are somehow less than lit fic, literary fiction. But you don't make no money with lit fic. I'm sorry. I mean, there's some people out there that are doing really well, but people, a lot of times with romance, people are just looking for an escape. Our numbers climbed during COVID because people wanted something that they knew they were going to get that HEA at the end and wasn't going to be any kind of problem with that, or HFN, happy for now. And one of the joys about writing romance is that you can do anything with it. You can write mysteries. You can write queer. You can write spaceships. You can write ninjas. You can write, you want dragons? We got dragons too. And we have women who lead. Yeah, in the back in the day, they were very rapey. When I first started in 94, they're very rapey. Now, consent is sexy. So you write within the tropes, but you spin them in a different way than they were spun in the 90s. Does that make sense? Does
Yeah,
that make
thank you.
sense?
That's really interesting.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Do we have other questions from, actually, I saw there was a comment. I meant to read it. But Professor Barry, I don't know if you wanted to ask out loud or.
Oh, Topaz is one of my favorites. Oh my God.
Mhm.
Topaz. Did you get the anniversary issue with the extra chapter at the end?
Yes, I did.
Oh, okay, good.
And you sent me down a rabbit hole of Black marshals
Yeah.
and that history. And I just got to say, I so have loved reading your books. I don't really have a question. I just want to fangirl and tell you how much I am loving your work.
Oh,
And
well, thank
um,
you. Yeah.
as I said, I'm sorry I didn't know your work until recently. So
Better late than sorry. Welcome to the family.
that's right. Better late than
Okay.
never.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Bass Reeves. Um, and now the people they've got this big thing with Bass Reeves that they're doing. And my readers are like, where they been for 20 years? We did Bass Reeves just like with the Harry Tubman movie, where people just found out that Harry Tubman's real name was Araminta. And my ladies went to the movies. I said, Miss Bell, they just know that they just found out that Harry's real name was Araminta. They said, where they been? I'm like, I know y'all. I know. Um, but yeah, the history has been there. It's just opening up the book and letting it out. But I'm glad you're enjoying it. One of my favorites is something like Love, if you have not read that. For me, that is my most perfect book. To me, that's my most perfect because it's because of the balance, the history, the humor, um, and plus it's Neil July. Um, you got an older black woman running away from home, sneaking out in the middle of the night so she don't marry this dumbass that her daddy wants her to marry. And so she hops on the train and goes west. And the train is robbed. And one of the robbers is Neil July, who they call the Terrible Twins, he and his brother, because they were fathered by the same guy, but different mothers, born on the same day. And they are the Terrible Twins. And this is the second July book. So check that one out. Okay. Yeah. Great seeing you. Thank you.
Listen, I feel you, Renee. I'm just like, fangirl, that's what we're here doing. Okay. We're just fangirling. So I do have a question. Then I know somebody messaged me that they have a question, but I'm curious. We've talked a lot about craft. We
Mm-hmm.
talked a lot about research, but I'm curious to know how you deal with writer's block. Like, has there ever,
I don't believe in it.
you don't believe, so there's never been anything that sort of prevented you from writing?
My I was somewhere and some guy told me he had been blocked for 7 years. I said, you know what? That sounds like a personal problem, or you need a physician. So, but I don't I don't believe in writer's block. I have written myself into situations where I didn't know where I was going to go, but it didn't stop me from writing. And like I said about the story being already on the page, my characters already know where the story's going. And sometimes they hold back stuff. Like one of the Blessing series, when Mal loses his mind, I don't know if you read the series, but when Mal loses his mind and then he has to leave town, right? I didn't know where he was. Been racking my brain, didn't know where he was. The night before the morning that book was due, I still didn't know where he was. So I'm in my bathroom at 4 o'clock in the morning, in the dark, yelling at the mirror, Mal, where the hell are you? 2 seconds later, it came to me where it was. And I told him, I said, y'all couldn't have told me this 2 weeks ago? Give a sister a break here. So for me, they are very real. And they like sitting over in the corner of my office laughing at me when I don't know where the story should go next. Writers are very strange people. We already know that. But only another writer can appreciate that kind of a story. But yeah, we are sort of insane, but it's what makes us us, and it gives you the stories that you love. So
No, I
yeah,
love that. And I love that you're in conversation with the characters and getting mad at them, like, talk to me. This
yeah,
idea that it's
they're
really
in my
immersing
head.
the
I have a
story.
green room in my head. They're in my head, and a lot of them are up there. They're like, when is it my turn? When is it my turn? Because Indigo was supposed to be my second book. Dr. Vivica Lancaster was not having it. She said, get out the way. So Vivid was second, and poor little Hester was third, So yeah. What can I say?
Well, we like them all. We like them all.
I do too.
There's another question here.
Yeah.
Yes. You spoke earlier about people getting lost in the stories, and I do get lost in your stories. And I also have conversations with the characters and, ask questions. But I
It's
wanted
okay.
to know, when you write your Black love stories set in the historical periods that often have erased Black joy, do you feel like you're reclaiming history or rewriting it, or maybe a bit of both?
I'm giving voice to what some people don't believe. Some people don't believe in Black love. In fact, Bernie Jackson can tell you a story about an editor who told her Black love didn't exist. But if you sell yourself into slavery for the love of a woman, what are you going to call that? Or you have people who think that all of our Black men are drug dealers, dysfunctional, domestic abusers. And yeah, there's some brothers out there you want to run over with your car repeatedly and back up, right? I know I'm silly, but those are not the men I write about. I write about, the men that I grew up with in my family, my uncles and my daddy. And we all have those little old couples at church that have been married for 60 years who holding hands coming out the service, going to the car across the parking lot, holding hands still. People don't write about that. And the majority culture does not see that, even though we do. So I think that's one of the functions of Black romance, is to put this on display and say, look at us, see our humanity. Our values are no different than any other culture. The only thing that we don't have that the majority culture has is the Ku Klux Klan. We had riverboats, we have skating rinks, we have, vacation beaches, we have all of that stuff. We had newspapers. So for them to continue not to see us, I could care. I know who I am. I know who my people are. I love my people. So as we used to say at Michigan State, fuck them if they can't take a joke, So I'm sorry. Told you not to make me be who I am. But we are real. We have always been real, and Black men have, and my books are a tribute to Black men too, because they have served this country since before this country was a country. There were Black men in the French and Indian Wars before the Revolution, trying to let people see just how brave and full of honor that they are. The Buffalo Soldiers of the 10th, 9th, and 10th Cavalry, the most decorated men in the West. But they got used equipment. They barely got medicine. They put up telegraph poles, escorted, wagons, and people didn't want to be near them, but no, we don't want to go by Black people. You rather get killed by the Indians? Okay, fine. We'll see you later. So my books are also a tribute to them because nobody's giving them their flowers. So I got a lot of Black men who read my books, which is, I think, wonderful. And they love the Western. So, girl, I'll be here talking till Tuesday about this history. So
by all means, continue.
We'll be here till Tuesday. But I'm very, very, like I said, proud of what I write and how I write it. Um, for me, um, literature should educate and also entertain. And I call it entertain. Jesus,
You call it
getting old too.
edutainment.
Edutainment. Thank you. Yeah, I'm getting
Hmm.
old. I was 75 last month. So, the brain is like, girl, no, we ain't retrieving that. You catch us tomorrow. But yeah, edutainment. It should entertain and educate. So that's what I try and do.
Thank you. Let's see, we have a question in the chat. Laverine Johnson said, new to your writing, what is the first book you recommend that they read?
Well, you can read by the publication order. And if you go through it in that way, you don't miss anything. But a lot of people jump around. I mean, everybody reads how they want to read. I would go with either, Topaz or Indigo or something like Love. And if you don't like a lot of heat, the Blessing series. There's 12 books of those, and you definitely have to read those in order because there's a cast of thousands, and you will be so lost. You'll be like, who the heck is this? And we just got optioned by John Legend, um, his Get Lifted group for the Blessing series. So fingers crossed. We've been optioned before, but optioning and getting it done are two different things. But they're so excited. I'm excited how excited they are. So we might I actually get something done this time. We'll see. Because Sony optioned Forbidden. And we had a showrunner and we had a script and we had a green light. And then COVID hit. And everything, blew away into the wind. So, but regardless of what happens, I'm still gonna keep writing. I'm working now on a Western. Haven't done a Western in a while. I haven't had a new book in 2 years. So working on a Western about a young woman, well, she's not really young. I'm not no longer writing about 22-year-olds. Because we, like I said, I'm 75. Come on now. She inherits a boarding house from her aunt, only to find out it's a bordello. So, and it's in Denver. I'm doing the research and stuff now. I got a little bit. I did Denver with Nighthawk, so I can go back and unearth that stuff and see what I can use and what I have to do new. My research process, we talked about that, is a lot easier now than it was when I first started because I had no books. All I had was what my mama taught me and the books that I had at the library. And so had to research, Civil War and had to research Reconstruction and had to research all of that stuff and had to research the Wild West. But now, since all of that, 60 books later and, 3 rooms worth of books, I don't know what my daughter gonna do when God called me home. What she gonna do with all these books? I have one young lady who's a reader. She's also a African American English professor at Bowling Green. So she comes up every now and then, and I say, go in there and take some of them books home, because I know she'll use them. So, but the process is easier, but I still want to get it right. So I still do the research when I stop for stuff. Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you. There's one comment that says you're the reason I sweeten my coffee with honey. So look at
Oh, I
you.
know. Yeah, the free produce movement.
Uh-huh. Free produce.
Yeah,
So
did a
it is
story.
it's 6 o'clock, and I don't want to keep you unless you want to keep talking a little bit.
I'll keep talking. We'll go. How about we go to 6:30 and then we'll y'all can go home and I can go sit on my porch.
It sounds
Okay,
wonderful to
listen,
me.
listen. Well, I mean, you actually answered the question that I had. It was about your. I wanted to know if you had anything that was option because both your books did get published into a movie, did get made into a movie. I saw it, the one with the black cherries. It's one of your contemporary
Yeah.
books.
Iris Bowling did Deadly Sexy.
Deadly
Yeah,
Sexy.
yeah, she did. She's an independent, well, she's also a great romantic suspense writer. And she is the most independent writer that I know. She runs all of her books out of her website. She don't give Amazon none of her money. So she taught herself film. She said she got tired of waiting for other people to give us a green light, and she taught, just like Anna DuVernay, she taught herself film, and she filmed some of her books. And we were at an event somewhere, and she said, "Can I do Deadly Sexy?" And I'm like, "Sure." So she filmed it in 10 days. It's on Amazon still. It's Deadly Sexy, the movie. Um, it's part of my contemporary romances. So if you're looking for, and she did such a good job. Oh my goodness. Even though, and everywhere when people's like, "Well, Miss Beth, when are you going to do, when are you going to do movies?" So we had to, crowdfund it, crowdsource it, whatever the word is. And people did not put their money where their mouths were. So she wound up doing this movie with band-aids and paper clips and safety pins and all of that, but she did a damn good job. So yeah, but it's still available.
Yeah, I think the last time I tried to access it on Amazon, it said it wasn't there for licensing restrictions. I haven't looked in a
I haven't
couple
looked
of
in a
months.
long time. Yeah,
It's
Yeah.
still
there's
there.
been
I watched it recently,
Okay,
me too.
so it
good.
might have come back on.
Come
Yeah.
back on. But
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it because yeah. Let's see.
And Travis
Taisha,
saying it's easy on the eyes too.
That's right.
yes, very much
He
so.
real I guess he's on something with Tyler Perry now.
Oh, that's
Okay.
interesting.
Something I don't know.
Mm.
Well, and that's also, I guess, one of the things like that I love about your book is the romance. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
let's be real about it. Like the
yeah,
history is
yeah,
beautiful and wonderful, but the romance, right?
yeah.
And these leading, men and women that you have that are bold and audacious and wonderful. It rocks my world. Like I'm here for it all day, every day. I'm trying to get my husband, and he's got to read these books.
Well,
No,
a
no,
lot of when
say
I
it.
first started, and I don't know if it's generational or not, but a lot of the guys and the women were sharing them at night. They were using it as cuddle time.
Hmm.
And I was getting letters from the brothers saying, "Miss Bev, thank you." One guy said, "My baby is now," he used the word, "my baby is now more amenable to other stuff." I said, "Okay, well, my job here is done, So, yeah, because me and my husband had a good time.
Right,
I,
right.
I lost him in '03, but, we had a good time. So,
Yes, I
a lot
love
of my men are based on him.
I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Well,
Let's
I
see.
love that. I'm curious about, and I see there's a question, but one of my students posted and that yeah, I have them read Indigo, and they're always like, "What should I read next?" And I give them some things, but also sometimes in the classroom, there's a different they're like, "Oh, it's way too sexually explicit," but by the end, they sort of come to understand that the book is worth reading regardless of the heat because of what it
Right.
teaches them. And so, do
Yeah.
you have any suggestions for students as they read your work who may be a little bit concerned about whether they're going to be turned off by the sensuality of it? Do you have anything for them to think through?
Skip it.
Oh,
You can skip the love scenes.
okay.
My aunt, I had 7 aunts back when I first started. And they read Night Song, right? And one of my aunts said, "I am never eating at your kitchen table again." And I said, "Okay, I'm sorry." And one of the other aunts said, I just skip them. I just skip the love scenes, and because for them it was about the story. So I mean, you can do what you want, but and then you had the people that love the heat, no matter the age. I mean, I had 90-year-old women saying, "Girl, you bring back memories." Like, okay, okay, ma'am.
Well, and it's funny because the first time I read it, my aunt, she was like, I love Beverly Jenkins because the history. And I said, okay, and I'm reading it. And I was like, yeah, sure. It's the
Uh-huh.
history.
Yeah, it's the history.
Huh.
Yeah,
Because I
yeah.
was like, oh, oh. And then of course, sometimes students are like, I didn't know they was doing that back then. I was like, I mean,
How you think we got here?
yeah, so it's sort of funny to have them read certain works and then sort of dispel the myths of what's happening all throughout history. The idea that love, and what I love about your works is that you're not just talking about romantic love. You're talking about all types of love, eros,
Yeah,
friendship, brotherly love, a communal
yeah,
love. I think your works really are a testament to Black love broadly, not just Black romance specifically. And
yeah,
it's one of the reasons that I think it's great books, great edutainment. Um,
yeah. Found
um,
families is a big theme too, especially with
mhm,
the blessing series. But
mhm.
found families is a good thing too. So yeah.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
one question in the comments says, out of all the stories you've told, what kind of story do you still feel hasn't been given enough voice?
I am a big fantasy reader.
Oh,
I want to do dragons. Wakanda with dragons. Especially with this big romanticy thing going on right now. So I have I have this historical that I'm working on. Next is I don't know if you know my readers, the Ryan Weiner folks um, have been on me about finishing Sweetness, who was in Sexy Dangerous. He was the guy in the bank, right? I mean, he was on a page and a half, and they had been whining about having a story for him. So for the last 25 years, I've been lying to them about giving them this story. And then after I do that, because his name is Sweetness, after I do Sweetness, then we're gonna talk about dragons. So we shall see. I want to see a black woman riding a dragon.
look, and in the chat, you got, yes, Black folks with dragons, please. Not Dracarys. Yeah.
Dracarys.
Yes, 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 yes. Oops,
Yeah, well,
sorry.
I am known as Beverly Jenkins, first of her name. So,
And you
um,
are,
yeah. So,
and
yeah.
is. Do we have other questions? I see Dr. Moore in the chat.
Uh-oh.
I have another question.
Oh, there we
Okay.
go.
All right.
Have you ever held back a story because you knew the industry just could not
Nope.
handle the audience?
Nope.
No?
Nope.
Um,
I never got pushback from any of my editors. Never got pushback from my publisher. In fact, I have been blessed to have one, two, three, four editors of color in my 30 years. And then I just changed publishers. And my new editor is one of the baby editors that I raised when she was a baby editor. And so now she's an executive editor and she's going to be my editor at this new publishing house. So I have never, ever, ever, they have never said you can't write about that. Now, I've had editors say, why is this person in the story? Because I have a tendency to put like a million people in the story. They ain't got no role other than, taking up space. So I've got, I need a good editor. But other than, craft kinds of issues, I've never had a subject or a conversation or an encounter that I was told I couldn't write. Never.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have another
I have
question.
a
Oh, no, you go ahead, Destiny. I'll say fine.
I hope you guys can hear me, but I just had a question regarding your book covers. Like, are you intentional? Have you always been intentional about like keeping the same type of feel and look towards
Well, you don't have any
the book covers? Because
the covers, I stopped. I was having issues with all that hair, right? With the early books. Because there wasn't no product back then, So we called it 12 pounds of hair. So, but the guy who was the art director gave me some gorgeous, gorgeous covers. Like that midnight cover. Oh my God. And the Nighthawk cover. I was on deadline for another book. No, I was on deadline for that book. And they sent me the cover without any words on it, just him. I had been up for 2 days. And the first thing I saw when my email opened up, and I was like, oh, that'll wake a sister up. So I put it up on my Facebook page, and the women lost their minds. So, and this was really early in the morning. So I came back about noon. I said, okay, I'm taking him down now. He needs a towel from all of y'all licking screens and all of that. But he's the same guy that is on the Destiny's Captive cover. But yeah, same guy. So does that answer your question, Destiny?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
Okay.
My favorite
Yeah,
has
okay.
to be the one with storms. I love that. Like,
You're breaking up, baby.
okay.
Uh-oh, she might be going through a dead spot. So
Yeah.
there's a question in the chat asking, they want to know, what are you reading besides research, of course? What authors do you enjoy in romance and beyond? That's Dr. Moore.
I am reading a book I want all of y'all to get right now. It's called The X Dilemma by Elle Wright. It's a contemporary. She's reading it. Joyce is reading it
I'm reading
now.
that right now.
Yeah, I'm going to play Oprah to her. Well, I played Oprah to her about 6 weeks ago with the Detroit Public Library. And we're having a community book club meeting with her next Friday. And I just love her so much. She's just a sweetheart. But I'm reading that and I'm absolutely loving it. I'm a big fantasy reader. I'm reading I'm going to start Alona Andrews' new book, Patricia Briggs. I don't read a lot of romance because I don't want my stuff falling into or being merged with other people's stuff. And so most of the stuff that I read is fantasy. So, yeah, but I read a little bit of everything. I mean, I'm reading also a nonfiction by Rick Rubin. He's the guy that founded Def Jam Records. And it's sort of a mashup of creativity meets mindfulness. And it's really, really neat. I mean, it's sort of like somebody described it as like a tarot deck. You open it up, you read what it is, and it'll help you, be creative. But it's a big old book. I don't even know who recommended it to me. Sometimes God's put stuff in your life, you don't know why it is there. But this book it's amazing. So if you're a creative and you're looking for something different and in ways to make you think differently about writing and yourself, who knew a white guy started Def Jam Records? So Rick Rubin is his name. So
I have a question for you about, you were talking about Black men, and something you shared with a few of my students last semester is that you didn't like to have blood on the hands of certain male characters.
right.
And so, but rereading Captured, I don't think I reread it again, of course, to teach it, but I don't think it was one of the ones I had never read. And so the first time I read it, listen, y'all, if you ain't read Captured, there's some things that happen, and it happened so quick. Like there's a carriage, and then people's heads get cut off.
Right.
And so I was curious, how do you decide which characters do get blood on their hands and which ones don't in terms of your Black men?
Well, it depends on the story.
Okay.
It depends. Like I said, I'm a pantser.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I don't know. Um, my editor at the time, she's so squeamish. When they cut the heads off, she said, "I'm so glad that took place off page, and that you didn't write that." And I said, I had no idea that's what was going to happen. I'm just trying to keep up a lot of times with the story. And I'd be telling characters, slow down, wait, let me catch up a little bit. Which is kind of weird, but I don't like, because people say, well, why didn't Galen kill Shu? That'd been too easy. That would have been a cheap, quick way for the writer to get out of that situation. So how can you write it and come up with a better way to punish this man? Because he needed to be punished. You send him into slavery. Overseas. No chance ever of coming back. How you like me now?
Fate worse than death in many ways
Oh yeah.
Shu. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then what's his face from Through the Storm? I can't think of his name right now. There's so many characters, so little bandwidth.
Was
Morse.
Raymond?
No, not Raymond. The villain that stole Sable and the kids. Was it Henry Morse? Morse?
Mm.
What was his name? Anyway.
Yeah, him.
Yeah, him. They sent him into slavery, but he jumped overboard. He's like, nope. He was shark lunch. So, and that's okay too. That's okay too. So, I mean, for me, it's a cheap cop out. Well, for me, I tell myself I can be a little bit more creative than just, blowing somebody away. So, yeah.
And I think too, one of the things like at the end of Captured, before Edward meets his fate, he's so casually they're saying, hey, some of the workers have died. Should we bury them? And he's like, no, feed them to the sharks.
Yeah.
Just so casually, just such a casual reference. So, to prevent them from running away because then they'll stay around the shore to kill them. And it's so cavalier. My students are just like, but how come she didn't have them kill him? How come she doesn't want them to die? And I said, well, showcasing humanity and all of these other things, but they had some questions. They're like, I think I would have killed him. I said, well, write an alternate ending or something. But it's really useful because sometimes it is hard to read that you're so generous to some of the villains. I mean, and now in Captured, they got everything coming to them.
Oh yeah.
And then some.
And then some. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And like I said, it's different because the majority culture thinks Black men are bloodthirsty to begin with, and sometimes I don't want to feed into that. Oh, we know that's the way they are. So no, we can come up with. They can be a little bit more clever because we are a clever people. Otherwise, we would not be here.
Right.
So yeah.
I have one more question, and you guys, if you have any other questions, we're nearing our time. You talked a little bit about some of the one film that is on Amazon, but then another being optioned by Sony. If you had your choice of any of your books going to film, which one would it be?
I'm greedy. I want them all.
No, Beverly Jenkins, you can only choose one.
He said, I can have it my way. This is Burger King.
Right. This ain't a Wendy's, ma'am.
Ooh,
yeah.
Ooh,
I would choose probably, I'm a big Western fan. So I would choose Jesse Rhodes. Taming Jesse Rhodes. I hate the title. Love the book.
Great book.
Yeah, but it would not be Indigo. But it would be, because I looked at the Western that what's her name? Was in Family Matters. What's that younger? Regina King. And I loved it. But I hated that they had all of the historical people. And I was like, no, don't do this. That ain't the way it works. But I want to do Jesse Rose because I want to see a good ass Western. As my granddaddy used to call them, a shoot 'em up. I want to see a good shoot 'em up. Yeah, that would be my choice. And if not, Topaz would be next because of all of the Black women actresses that could be in that movie. I would love that.
I love that.
And I chuckle because I'm always asking my readers, give me the number one whatever, and they do 5 books or they'll do 7. So I'm just playing along with how they do me.
Let's see. We have a question in the chat from Patricia West. She says, "Hello, Sister Beverly. We met a few years ago when you were here for the Savannah Book Festival. I admired the way you traveled and spent time in the Gullah Geechee corridor to research and make your work authentic. Are you still applying that travel strategy to other book settings?"
Um, I think I have done all that I need for my books. We went to Asaba Island, and I actually saw an indigo plant, just so, just like a everyday, no kind of distinct, just not distinguished, just sitting there like I'm an indigo plant. I'm like, okay, this is what you look like. But traveling through that area with my girlfriends has changed my life. And I had written Sable and Ramon's wedding at St. Louis Cathedral in New Orleans, but I had never visited it. And so when we did go to New Orleans that next time, and I'm in the church, and my girlfriend is laughing at me, she said, "Look at her face," talking about me, because I was just like, looking around. And then it was even grander than I had imagined. So it's very life affirming to be able to see these places and knowing that Black people actually walked in these places like Mitchellville and like I said, Mitchellville and Asaba Island and Allensworth in California, and Congo Square. Well, it's not called Congo Square anymore, but Congo Square in Louisiana, New Orleans. And it's just, I got such a blessed life,
Yes.
such a blessed life. Yeah.
Good. Good to hear that. Are we allowed to speak? I don't know. I came in a little late.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Oh, okay. All right. So, yeah, I was just at Osaba on Saturday.
Were you?
I'm now on the board of trustees. So you are right. If you haven't been there, Joyce, Dr. Parker, y'all have to come at one of our open days, because as Sister Beverly knows, you just can't go over there. You
got to get on the boat.
You have to get on the boat, y'all.
Is the little old white lady still there? Is she still living there?
No, she died at age 100 and
God.
102.
Well, she was from
Miss
Detroit.
Sandy. Yes,
she's from
she is
Grosse
from
Pointe,
Detroit.
Michigan. We was like
Yes.
homegirl.
Yes.
So we didn't get the chance to see her when we were there, but she was still
Right.
alive when we were there.
Right. Yeah, she's passed away, but it's important that what you said, realizing that African Americans walk through those grounds.
Right,
so it's up to us now to preserve the stories and the grounds.
Yeah.
And you do that whenever, I say writing is a way of historical preservation as well.
It is, yeah.
That's what
I work toward. And the way that they're trying to erase our history. Once you read it and it's in you, they can't take that from you. Can't take that from you. One of my readers, this was a long time ago, her grandson did a Black book report for Black History Month. In schools, ain't but 5 people in Black history, right? So I don't remember what his subject was. I don't know if it was the Black Whalers or the Black Cowboys. I don't know. Anyway, the teacher was blown away by the subject matter. And she said, "Well, where did you get this information?" He said, "My grandmama's Miss Bev books."
Oh.
So the idea that we're using these books and passing it along orally also is a great thing, because they can't take that stuff from that young man. They
No.
can't take that education and what he knows, that knowledge.
Right.
So it's very
Yes. Yes.
valuable.
Yeah.
And I was very pleased that he said Miss Bev's books.
Well, you're on my syllabus for this semester and always. And so I told the
I want one of
students
y'all to
about
teach. I want one of y'all to teach something like love.
Okay, well, I'll have to put it on mine then. Apparently,
something like
I'm the
love.
only one. It'll be on my syllabus.
Because
I'm gonna
wait,
do something
something
like
like
love.
love,
That is,
That's
it
that's
start off.
I
yeah,
love it though.
that's
It's a good
Olivia and Neil.
hmm
It's a great,
Oh,
like I said, I
wow.
think it's my most perfect book.
Wow. I'll certainly look. I haven't read that one. So, yeah.
My
And every
most,
time I get one, I can't keep one of your books.
don't
So
give them away. They don't give
I,
them back.
that's, I
Tell
have
them
to
people,
keep
them tell
buying them over.
they just pay less, get their nails done. Tell them buy a book.
Yes, you're
Help a
right.
sister pay
You're
a light
right.
bill. Buy a book.
Mm, yes, you're right.
Pat, that's 101.
Oh boy. Yes.
We
Mm,
got Dr. Moore in the chat. She says, say less. They finna teach something like
Yeah,
love. Okay.
yeah,
Listen.
yeah.
okay.
Because it's fun
Mhm.
and it's a lot of different levels. Um, it's just a great book.
Mhm.
It is
Okay.
just a great book. You're just gonna
Look,
love it. You're gonna love it.
okay. Look forward to it.
Okay. Great seeing you, Dr. West.
Oh,
Patricia West. Is she a
yes.
doctor too?
Pat.
Okay.
No, I'm not. No.
Okay.
A PWI stole that from me, but anyway, that's a big story.
Oh
That's
dear.
a big
Okay.
story. I earned it though. Did everything but the
There you
dissertation.
go.
All
My
right.
husband got cancer and they timed me out,
I
and
know. Been
that's
there,
why.
girl. Been there.
Okay, I okay.
Been there.
Yeah.
Well, we
Well,
have come to our time. It is
yes.
6:29.
Mhm.
Y'all, this has been so good. Miss Beverly Jenkins gave us 30 extra minutes, and we are so appreciative.
I had a
And
good time.
yes, and
Good
so
time.
I just want to thank you for letting us celebrate you, the 30th anniversary of Indigo, talking about all these books. And so before we officially dismiss everybody, do you have any last words of wisdom you want to share with
I
anybody?
just want to say thank you
Thank you.
because without my readers, there'd be no Beverly Jenkins.
Mm.
So, I try and do my best to come when I'm called, because
And
y'all
make
my
sure that
goal.
we come when you called and we come too. Because I tell y'all last year, she was like, excuse me, I asked you when I was coming to your class. I wasn't playing. I said, let's make this happen. Let's go.
Yeah. And I would love to be able to see you all in person. So maybe we'll work on that and see what we can
Oh, we're
come up
working on
with.
it.
We're
See what
working
we
on it.
see
We
what
are working on that.
see what we can
That's
come
going
up
to be our
with.
next step
Okay, all right, yeah.
for sure.
But I want to thank you so much for your support, for spreading the gospel of Beverly Jenkins. Because this is my ministry, this history is my ministry. Um, and I'm grateful every day for everybody who's in my life. So thank you for blessing me with your friendship and your support.
Ooh, don't make me cry.
Right. Thank you for
Girl,
blessing us
Right. For
with
blessing
your
us, for
writing
loving
and the
us. You
stories.
love us and we love you back.
Absolutely.
thank you.
Absolutely. We're
Thank
so
you.
grateful for your time.
Yeah, people
All
they're saying
right.
standing ovation in the chat.
Yes.
Oh,
10 out of
and
10.
thank everybody in the room.
Mhm. They're
Thank
here.
y'all. Love y'all.
Yeah. Bye, y'all. Thank y'all so
Bye,
much for
y'all.
coming. My love will you will live on. 30 years of Indigo. Bye, y'all. Have a good
Thank
night.
you. All right, buddy. Thanks, y'all. All
Oh,
right.
thank you so much.
All right. Holla at me. Okay.
Yes.
We
Oh,
sure will.
we'll
Keep in
do.
touch, please. All right.
Absolutely.
Love y'all. Bye.
Thank you. Love you too.